Okay, so when it comes to testing, so we've been talking, I know, we've been talking about testing, and that's all I focused on the equity audit is testing, OST, benchmark, maps. Those are the 3 areas of focus.
Okay.
And then I surveyed our students, 3rd through 5th grade, and their thoughts and feelings and their ideas if testing is beneficial to them or not.
Okay.
Do they feel it's beneficial?
I would love to know what they say.
Right? So for you, when it comes to testing, do you feel teachers benefit more from MAPS data in reading or OST reading test data? As teachers.
I think it depends on what the analysis and reflection is about. So for me, when I think about OST data, that is good for teacher reflection because you aren't teaching those kids anymore this year, right? I would reflect on my practices when I think about Ohio State test data because those students have moved on. So like you get your value added data. I would be thinking about, did students make a year's growth? And if you could break it down into like looking at individual kids, well, what did I do with that student? I'm thinking about my practices, right? When I think about MAP, I'm thinking about more responsive teaching, and really from a bird's eye view because you're only getting it 3 times a year, but those are the kids you have now. So if you're thinking about that quadrant report, who's in the pink quadrant now? What do they need? What are their gaps, right? Who is in the green quadrant now? What have I been doing with them because they're growing like weeds, okay? That's more responsive to your current practice because you're looking at real-time student data. Now, the only reason I say bird's eye view is because it's not progress monitoring. It's not what every other week looks like or what a classroom assessment looks like. It's that 3 times a year dipstick. And then I think you need to holistically look at, am I giving enough small group time? Are my conversations with when I work directly with the whole class, am I providing enough complex text, rigorous questioning, critical thinking, those kinds of things.
Awesome.
They're just used I think they're used for different things.
Yeah. All right, question 2. What information do you feel MAPS data provides most to teachers?
So MAP is a benchmark assessment, a diagnostic benchmark. It's got a moving target for kids, and it gives us that fall, winter, spring, like the work that I'm doing in between those points. Is it creating change for students? Are they growing? And then it kind of puts them all on that coordinate plane, which is very helpful. And you should be taking those kids and grouping them and thinking, okay, what does each group need? If you think about your kids who are in the orange, and that's the high achievement, low growth, what am I doing to challenge those kids? You got the pink, the red quadrant, whatever we call it, low growth, low achievement. That's 911. What am I doing today, tomorrow, next week to create growth? My kids are in the green. How are they? What am I doing with them? Because something works, right? And then when you think about those low achievement, high growth kids, how are you accelerating them? And how do you keep that momentum going?
Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Number 3. Do you feel testing shows if students have mastered the skills being taught in class? Why or why not?
So I think that it can if you're looking at the right assessment. And for us, like Benchmark's a great example. Benchmark is new to us. We are learning to read benchmark data. And as time goes on, we're going to get better at it. The first hurdle is, oh my gosh, I got to get this kid to take a test that took 3 days. So first we got to figure out how to work through that. then we need to be able to look at the database for reports and see what is helpful to us. What reports give us what kind of information? Is it broken down by strands? Can we break kids into groups? Are there grouping reports, which there are? Yes, it should be able to show us what kind of work they do. There's always conversations about invalidating data, and I really try to circumvent those, because if you don't use something, what are you going to use? It can't all be on what your gut feeling is. So you do need to use some kind of data. And if you spend all your time invalidating data, I would love to say, what if you put that kind of effort towards using it and thinking about responsive teaching? I wonder what your results would be then.
Yeah.
Classroom formative assessments are so important. You can't go from a fall map test to a winter map test and be like, my kids aren't getting it, and if you didn't do any measuring along the way,
Mm-hmm.
and teach responsibly from that data.
Question 4 is two-parter.
Oh,
Okay.
A, B, got it.
Okay. So part A.
Okay.
What percentage of the OST would you say is aligned to what is taught in class?
I think there was a study at one point that talked about like text complexity,
Mm-hmm.
and how most of those texts, except for 6th grade at the time, were well over kids' grade levels, right? And here's what I would say. This is going to be unpopular. Are you ready? Those tests are built off of standards, right? And our job as teachers is to be adept with the standards. But I think when we are left to our own device to create our own instructional tools, we are not psychometricians, we do not create assessments, we are not curriculum writers. I think that we have to be equipped to find quality tools that really, truly provide opportunities for rigorous instruction. And I think we're seeing that right now with Benchmark. Like, if I was just if I was teaching 4th grade reading again, which is what I taught,
Mm-hmm.
and it was my job just to go into like teachers pay teachers and start pulling units and packets and worksheets and things like that, the best thing that I can do is be really great at the standards.
Mm-hmm.
But in the 5 years I was teaching, I would say that I wasn't there yet. Right? I wasn't there yet. So it is so important to have those, like there's that buzzword right now in Ohio, high quality instructional tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? High quality student materials. Because I think we have tenure teachers sometimes that are just they're not quite to the expertise level they probably want to be with the standards. So you have to keep working on that, and you have to be provided with the ability to discern what instructional tools are you using with kids that really provide for critical thinking and high levels of depth of knowledge and how to attack complex text. I mean, I know that sounds like, so when you say, do the OSTs, I'm trying to bring it back around, do the OSTs, are they all on grade level or are they all online? I sometimes want to say, do we know what the depth of that standard really looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm sure that there are questions in there that are ringers, no doubt.
Do you have a percentage?
Do you
have a
percentage? I don't know. I mean, I could say anything, 20%, 10%. I have no idea. I mean, we provided that item analysis, and what,
Yeah.
if you look at like that item analysis that we have that goes through every question,
Mm-hmm.
it aligns it to every standard on there.
Okay, so you would say, which was part B,
Mhm.
that the state of Ohio would say that their test aligns 100% to what we teach in class.
So when you pull the item analysis, here's what I'm going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
When you pull the item analysis from Cambium, it gives you all the standards for that grade level and says what all the questions are. So they're going to say it's aligned.
Mm-hmm.
This is tough,
Uh-huh.
right?
I know.
I'm not going to make excuses for not getting that test done.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, if you feel like that's not that right standard, maybe we need to work on our standards a little bit. I can only control what I can control.
Right.
I don't work for Cambium, so I can't control that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I can control is how well I know how to teach, analysis of nonfiction texts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? How deep does that look at 4th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, right? So I think, I also think that those standards are written ambiguously,
Yeah.
right? Because we need to push kids. Yeah. You're a ringer today there.
I'm trying.
Miller.
Trying.
I like this.
Question 5. What benefits do you feel students receive from testing? So I asked them what they felt. Now, what do you feel students? Do you feel students see benefits in testing?
I think that we're like at Lexington here. We are on a journey, and over time, like we do conferencing to help get kids get ready for testing. I think you have to build kids up into like wanting to know how they're doing for themselves, like really like buying into the concept of self-assessment, so that having some pride in your work matters, right? And I think that over time, as we as a team continue to grow, we will get there and do more of that. Sometimes it's pulling teeth, right? What do kids think? I don't know. That's a great question. I'm going to guess that they probably don't see a ton of value in assessing and being assessed. So my question would be then, how do we provide opportunities to see that value, that the work that you do matters, right? That, you know what, that some of you did a great job, like look at our math tests, right? I'm going to have time to read another group of those today, and we're proud of your work. You should be proud of your work. You should want to grow. I think that's something that we have to keep working on here in Lexington. It's hard. What do kids say? Oh, I know.
Maybe you have to read my equity audit. Just kidding.
Okay,
No,
I will.
No. Overall, they, surprisingly, so I did 3rd through 5th.
Mm-hmm.
I did 6 kids in each grade.
Okay.
2 gifted, 2 IEP, 2 middle of the road.
Okay.
Is what I went with.
Oh, I like that.
Yep. And overall, a lot of them, when it came to aligning, they felt that what they learned in class does align with their tests that they take either in class or MAPS OST. And they also, I just asked as a general question, how do you feel about testing at Lexington? And nobody said that
Terrible.
it was horrible.
Nobody said terrible.
Nobody said it was terrible. Nobody said, we did have one non-participant, but that is,
That's okay.
it was a rough day.
Actually, that's all right.
And that makes sense. It's what happens. But they did not feel, they all said, okay. They felt like it was good, that it was hard, but they understood why it was hard.
Good.
So it's good to see.
That was good to see.
Yeah.
Oh, I like to hear that.
Last question, which you have kind of answered before, but do you feel we test just enough, or under test?
I think we test enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like right in the middle where we should be?
I do. I also think that we are not opposed to taking things off the table that don't bring value. We were doing a state diagnostic, and that used to be, you print 1,000 pages, make all these little books. Now we use something that we actually use, map tests. We got rid of those. If it doesn't, we're fighting in title all the time that as we are learning our new tools, our new curriculum, like we're pulling things off that don't give us useful information and trying to streamline. Mm-hmm.
That's all I got for you.
That's all you need?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.